Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Trevor Martin, and I am the founder and CEO of RMF Coaching. And as most of you know, I've put on a couple of shows here on YouTube titled Way of the Warrior. And what Way of the Warrior is, it's about touching base with people, specifically in the LinkedIn community, and kind of reaching out to them as I've noticed that what they're doing is promoting good and really focusing on that subject and promoting that in today's dark world. I believe that we need more types of those people. And so I like to kind of bring them to the forefront so people are able to connect with them. I really believe that building a stronger community, promoting that goodness is key. So today I have with me Neela Singh. And Neela, first of all, thank you for joining us. Very, very excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So if you could kind of connect with the audience a little bit and kind of talk about your journey to where you are at today and what is it that you do?
Sure. So thank you again for having me. I tell everyone I'm a professional troublemaker. That's how I usually go into meetings and say, so my business is built on referrals. I'm a fractional CEO, COO. And what I do is I go into businesses, startups, mostly tech startups. They're in stealth mode, but usually their processes suck. But they know that, so they reach out to me. And I've never used social media prior to 12 months ago.
Oh, wow.
I built a referral business offline. I like it that way because I know when people refer me to another person, another CEO, they usually know the type of personality that they're getting.
Right.
I am a personality. I love witty humor. I bring that to a lot of the leadership that I, try to evangelize into the workplace. And so people know the type of person they're hiring. I prefer that way because I've spent so many of my years in stuffy environments, suits and ties, just not being myself, observing. But now I'm really outspoken and getting in there. So I'm in there. They usually tell me, and most of these people, they know their product. They know their craft, but they don't know how to hire. They don't know how to onboard. They don't know how to build a dynamic team, and they don't know how to provide mentorship. And you see a lot of those layoffs and, a lot of those Glassdoor reviews that you get that's really negative.
Right.
And they don't want to fall into that trap of being written about poorly or, being assumed. So they try. So most of these people who come to me now, they're looking for a better way of doing things. And so they tend to listen. And it's really cool, right? Because you have this knowledge, you get in there, but it's about impact. And I think the problem is when I was working, and I've spent a lot of time working. I mean, I started working since I was 15 years old. So that's quite a few decades we're talking about there. So, and most of that time I've spent really just observing people, observing employees, interactions, synergies with CEOs, and try to figure out what was broken in the process. And the key to solving a lot of problems in the workplace and for the world is unlocking communication. A lot of people just don't fucking say what they want. And there's a lot of assumptions from employee to employer. There is no communication. And so I tell people, if you need help with something, just ask. Just ask. But there is just a general lack of trust in companies, and people are fearful that they'll be perceived as, stupid or silly or just asking too many questions. And there's quite a lot of assumptions that's there. So unlocking communication is key.
Why? So I like what you said, you're like, just ask, just fucking ask, just ask the question, ask what you want or say what you want to say. Why do you think we're so reserved? I mean, is it because, you mentioned trust. So is it because that foundation of trust has not been built? So therefore, because that foundation of trust has not been built, we're kind of like, I don't feel like I should, like if I say something or if I ask something, maybe I'll be considered stupid, or maybe there's, and we know it's illegal in the workplace, right? But maybe there's some retaliation coming my way.
It can be a
Good.
little bit of both. It
Yeah.
can be a little bit of both. And I honestly believe that there's just this lack of communication with CEOs. So previously to the pandemic, it was like you're going to go to work, you get paid for your work, you show up to work. And there is this conception that you need to leave your personal life at the door, at the workplace. And there is an establishment, an office, a building that signifies work. But that's been blurred, right?
Yeah.
Pandemic, that threw that away. So
Yeah.
people are now in their homes, and there is just very blurry lines between the work starts at 7, but then it continues going on into the night because people are not commuting and they're a little bit more relaxed. So they tend to work longer. And so what I've seen is that managers, they're promoted, or leaders, they're promoted based on a specific skill that they've learned so good, and they're promoted based on that skill. But they're not really getting that training or that mentorship that they need to be able to have a conversation with an employee about their personal life, because it's no longer about professional. People, their personal and professional lives are sort of interlinked. It's one
Yeah.
person. I am still Neela. I'm
Right.
still Neela with personal health issues and all this stuff, and I'm bringing my whole self to work. And what I've tried to look at in workplaces is we usually look at a mission or a company's mission, and we try to tie
Okay.
it to an employee, right?
Yeah.
And that builds trust. But what builds trust more is saying, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Can I help you with something? Can I support you with something? We tend to look at employees as this investment, this payroll, this liability, but behind the employee, there is a family. There is a mother, a father, a caregiver. So there are just many facets to an employee we don't really think about. And I've seen and have had success where if you support an employee personally, and I'm not saying you do this for the entirety of their job or being an employee, but you have to.
Oh,
Um,
hands down.
you must support people personally to get them to be invigorated in the workplace professionally,
Yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
and so in the mornings, what I typically do is this 20-minute one-on-one meeting
Okay.
where I get on Zoom at 6:55 a.m. in the morning. And I'm telling you, 92% of the biggest client that I have, the employees, they get on there. And what we talk about is not work. We talk about what they saw last night. We talk about politics. We talk about the wildfires that's happening in Hawaii. We talk about everything, but we don't talk about work because people have opinions about things. And I do believe divergent thinking is the way to build a workplace. You don't have to agree on everything, religion, politics. You don't have to, because what we need to understand is that people sometimes project based on the way they grew up and their lived
Absolutely.
experiences, right? They only know what they know, and some are willing to listen. So you have to really unlock that communication in the workplace.
I absolutely love that. I love the fact that, you talk about that 20-minute conversation, right? You get it, you bring the team in, and the very first thing that you talk about, it's not work, it's them. Right.
Yes,
When we think about interactions with humans, you just simple conversations. I think of the book Anatomy of Peace. It talks about heart of war, heart of peace, right? So if I approach somebody with a heart of peace, right, in a conversation, I'm fully invested in them. I want to know about them. I want to have this conversation. I'm excited about it. I want to hear what's going on with them.
yes.
I'm invested. I'm here in the moment, right? And they can tell that. They can feed off of that. If I approach them with a heart of war, I'm like, okay, you're still talking. We're 30 seconds in. Oh, okay. Right. I view them as an obstacle, right? They're a waste of my time and they're insignificant. And they can tell that too. So for a
Yeah.
leader to go in like yourself and say, hey, look, I want to talk about you. I want to make it personal. You make it personal. You bring me in. You make me feel like I'm valued. I want to be a part of that team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to be a part of that team every time.
Yeah, you have to make people visible. And there is a lot of talk about leadership and how
Yeah.
we lead people, but we don't talk about self-leadership.
Okay.
And if we don't own our shit, all of it, like all of the mistakes we've made and all of the stumbling blocks we've had,
Mm,
we cannot go in front of a team of people and lead them. Um, and the way to doing that is really, doubling down on empathy, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and asking for feedback. The first time I asked for feedback from a team was maybe 8 years ago. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm the shit. Like, I'm so cool. And, I help everyone. But the feedback I got made me think, I was a perfectionist. um, I was a lousy leader in retrospect because I expected every single thing to be done a specific way. There is just no Neela way. It's everyone's way.
yeah.
It's everyone's company.
I
So
had my story is almost identical. I was leading a team. I thought, oh man, when they review me, they're gonna be like, oh, 5 stars. That guy is amazing. Want more of him, please, right? Well, what ended up happening was, it boiled down to, hey, you're an asshole, right?
yeah.
Sure, you run a tight ship. You run a tight ship. You're a company man. Company would be
Hmm.
proud.
Hmm.
But I mean, I really don't want to be on your team because you're kind of a dick.
Yes.
So and it takes, self-leadership, the self-awareness journey. I absolutely 100% agree with you when you said, um, we've got to self-lead. A leader has got, or excuse me, a person has got to understand who they are, what they represent, and how they come across to other people before engaging as a leader, right? I have to understand what I'm about, and I also have to be willing during, and this is what's hard for me. You talk about emotional intelligence, and I'll be honest with you, Neela, I got some work to do, right? But it's also being cognizant of, as we lead, as we continue to grow, hitting pause, going back to our people and saying, hey, just to check in here. I know we said a couple months that you feel supported, you feel encouraged and enabled. Are we still trending in that way? Well, actually, you've kind of become a little bit self-centered again. We're kind of seeing that again, right? We're not seeing as much of you. You're pushing off meetings. You're saying, hey, yeah, I'll get back to you. We're waiting on some results, and we still haven't, we just haven't heard from you. You're gone. So it's very, very important, to your point, to make sure that we're on that self-awareness journey, that leading self, and continuing to touch base.
Yeah. Self-awareness is ongoing, right? You
Yeah.
evolve. I tell people if I'm the same person that I was 12 months ago, then I'm in trouble because I need to be moving. Um,
Right
in the
on.
nine in the 1990s, there was an experiment that they called the Cookie Monster experiment. And what they did was, I don't know the exact details, but this was the gist of it. There were 5 teams of 3 or 4 people, and each team had just they appointed a leader for each group. And the scientists, they separated them into separate rooms. And each scientist brought them a plate of cookies and they laid it out on the table. And
First
they
of all,
found,
I want in. I want in.
right, right. This is one of my favorite talks when I'm like, onboarding people into
Yeah.
companies. And basically, the self-appointed leader of each group ate the most cookies and left the most crumbs behind. Um, and that, there was a series of experiments after that. But basically, what they said was, when you are given power, so that leadership power, you tend to be an asshole. You tend to lose your touch with people. You do lose touch with people. You no longer feel what they feel. And that's real. People
That is
feel,
that
right?
is real.
Yeah, people do feel that. So there's a Cookie Monster experiment there for anyone wants to know. And there's like a whole write-up on it too. But people think that leadership is this title. Yes, it's a title, but for me, the way that I perceived leadership and the way that I kept grounded, it was a way for me to have access to resources and tools where I can make an impact.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I came from Trinidad and Tobago, a tiny island in the Caribbean, in 2003, and I landed in New York City, the concrete jungle. Now, Trinidad, it's very buttoned up. We were colonized by the British, so it was it was a society of status quo. You go to school, by a certain age, you get married, you have kids. But all around me, I noticed the women in my family, they're very strong women, but they were being kept down because of this way of thinking. I came from a very religious background. It was just unreal. I went to all girls school, very religious school. And I'm like, oh God, this is just not going to be my life. And I started pushing the envelope. I wasn't very vocal about it, but I did it just very little. I got tattoos.
Mm,
And I started doing weird things. But it's because I knew that my family supported me. So whatever I did, they would be upset, but there was enough trust there to know that they would come back to me eventually, and they always did. Um, but still, I got bored very easily. And I moved in 2003. In Trinidad, there's not much you can do in terms of career, right?
okay.
There is a large part of misogyny in the workplace. There's just no way for us, for women, independent women, to move up.
Okay.
And so when I came to New York City, I was like, fuck yeah, because 1.5 million people in an island, everyone knows you. They're focused on you, all your mistakes, all your triumphs, everything that you did, bad, good, whatever, it's focused
Wow.
on you. But when you come to New York City, you're kind of nameless. You can make mistakes, you can fail, and no one fucking cares, right?
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. And I'm like, this is cool. This is like Candyland. Um, so the first place I ended up was at a vacuum company, Electrolux Corporation, and we were selling vacuum cleaners. I didn't give a shit what job that I did. I was an office manager in Trinidad. I taught business communication to adults, but I did not care what I did when I came here, just as long as I got into it. And that was the most interesting job that I did. The second job that I went to was in Wall Street. And I literally had to carry my chair to the boardroom and all of that stuff. And there were people that would come in, women, and they would say, "Let me mentor you. Let me lead you the way." But they didn't really do that. When I was being beaten up in the boardroom, they never rescued me. And then I was like, no one is going to fucking save you. Doesn't matter what you do in this
Preach.
life. Yeah, the war is me attitude. No, I was just never a victim throughout my life. Even prior coming here, there was a lot of tragedy, in my teenage life, and I never felt like a victim. I always try to grow from those experiences. And
That's power
coming
right there. That's power.
That's it. I don't care what you say about me, what you think about me. I would care, but it doesn't faze me. I would think about it for a second, but then I would go to sleep, get up in the morning, and just go again. And so no one is going to save you. You have to save your fucking self. You just have to. Um, and that's when it started. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to work really hard. Um, and when I get to a place where I can help people, I will do that. And that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing now.
That is awesome. And like, I could listen to that forever because when we meet, well, when I meet individuals that say, look, I've had some tragedy in my life, and I'll tell you right now, that I will not play the victim. I chose and I choose not to play the victim. I also understand that nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming through the door saying, you know what you need? You need $1 million. You know what you need? You also need this job. You need this. Let me give it to you. Right. I got to be careful here. There's usually strings attached, right? And if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. So when we get up, when we say, look, I understand that nobody's coming to rescue me. And I fully expect that. I fully expect it to be my battle. So I embrace it. I accept it. Now watch me work. What's funny is that when we choose to put in that kind of work, I'm using you as an example, right? Look at the doors that open. You come to New York City. I love the concrete jungle. I love that. You come to New York City, right? And you didn't care what you did here. You just wanted to get a job and then do it and then kill it. And then boop, boop, boop. Look at the doors of opportunity that open up because you were strong enough to face whatever adversity came your way. And you just kept going. Dude,
Yeah.
that's inspirational.
Yeah, because when you get here, you have to answer to immigration authorities. So you have to be working right off the bat. You have to be paying taxes. You have his family back home because I had 2 siblings, a mom, dad, and they needed my support. So you need to be able to do that. I don't have
Yeah.
any kids, but it was just my husband and I then, and he's still my husband 26 years later. He, he needs a
That's
fucking
awesome.
award too. But but he was also going through his own issues, and embracing his challenges because there was just no community here. In Trinidad, you had a community.
Yeah.
We had a type of an accent. We had an island accent. And I'm like, listen, there is a gap we have to bridge here.
Mm,
And we have to make sure we need to figure out the way to sort of like not fit in, but to make it our own.
yeah.
And at the same time, we need to win and we need to win really fast. And I told him, and no one understood this. That advice that they give you shouldn't stay in a job for more than 2 years. I knew that in 2003 because you can go into a job and you can learn as much as you need to, and you can start getting, getting your feet wet in some other type of job, applying something there and learning more things.
Mm,
And that is the way that I kind of like looked at my career. I never really stayed place. They don't care about me. They don't care about loyalty in terms of employer-employee relationship. They don't
yeah.
give a shit. They just lay you off into seconds. So I understood that it was just a need to be filled at the time. But yeah, you can't play victim. You have to keep going. You have to keep evolving. You have to keep compromising, and that's how you move forward.
Oh,
Um,
hands down. Hands
yeah.
down. So as you look, Neela, as you look to the future, right? As you look to the future, let me ask this. What's your future look in like in 5 years? What's Neela's future?
Well, hopefully, I have a book out or two.
Oh yeah.
I'm working on my book. It's going to be published this year. I don't give a shit. It has to be done. It's already there. Like I just need to suck it up and just get it done. But I would hope, like for me, LinkedIn was a bet. It was a bet between a CEO and myself. I started with 253 connections in June of 2022. And he told me, he was like, Neela, he was also publishing a book. And he told me, he was like, Neela, I'm going to raise you to 3,000 connections. I'm like, okay, it's on. But prior to that, I couldn't be on social just because of my contracts and the nature of my contracts. But
Okay.
I didn't need social for anything. And I am not afraid to admit it. I had no friends. Like most of my friends and all of my family live in Trinidad. Most of my closest friends, they live in Trinidad. And what I had here is a bunch of colleagues and people from other companies, right? No friends. And then I got on LinkedIn and I'm like, okay, this is not professional. This is not buttoned up. This is kind of cool. So for me, I want to build a platform where I can have a voice to really let people understand that there is a better way to go about getting people to believe what you believe. You don't have to convince them 100%. You just have to get them to understand your side of it, your experience. That's it.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I mean, I love that. By the way, who won the race?
I did. He's
Ah,
still at like 1,500 connections because he's not consistent. Like
yeah,
consistency is everything. And people want instant gratification these days. That's not going to work.
you're
That's,
absolutely right. How many, what are you at for your Ross? What are you at for connections now?
it's 8,000. But here's the thing, I don't reach out to people and manually connect with them.
Yep.
I wait until they come to me.
Yeah.
So they would see my post, see my comment, and they come to me. Because
Well,
I'm not everyone's cup of tea, right? So
hey, absolutely. And I subscribe to that way of thinking. And I love the fact that because when people come to you, right, they're coming for a reason. Like something grabbed them, like, oh, like I like the banner or I like the content. Something grabbed, maybe it was a post and like that really, boy, that really resonates with me. I wonder what else, right? What else, what other topics she talks about, what other knowledge and wisdom she can share that I can use and apply in my life. That's awesome. I
yeah.
absolutely, I have 8,000. Heck yeah. I think I just hit, I think 3,300. I think that's what I just hit. So, but I absolutely agree, right? It's about being consistent, not only consistent in application on LinkedIn and providing content, but consistent in your message and staying true to who you are.
Yeah. So in the world, you started off by saying this world is fucked. Like it's doom and gloom everywhere. The news, we don't subscribe to a lot of those things.
Yeah.
And so I think that a large part of the population, they take more than they give.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's a problem,
There's
right?
a problem.
Because if you don't do anything in gratitude, nothing isn't, you're not entitled to anything. Like you're not entitled to engagement, or you're not
Preach.
entitled to any of it. Like, so you have to do it in gratitude. Like something good happens to you, yes, you worked for it, but be grateful for it.
Man, I love that.
You have to. You really, really have to. I'm not saying that because it sounds good. I'm saying that because that's what I truly believe. And when you get on LinkedIn, I do a lot of those high posts and stuff. It's because there's genuine hurt online. People
Wow.
are out of jobs, whatever. I can't do anything. I'm not a millionaire. I wish I could win the fucking lotto. I mean, Jesus. But you know,
You and me both.
what we can do is give people visibility, because
Right.
sometimes the algorithms, they don't work the way we
Yeah.
want it to. So it's the least I can do.
Hey, you know what? That right there, man, that's like, that is the perfect closeout. That right there is the reason why I reached out to you and the reason why I wanted you on, wanted you to be on Way of the Warrior. It's the promoting of others, right? It's the elevating of others that may, that form of elevation or that time of elevation, that might just be the window that they needed. Is somebody sees them and goes, oh, I need them for this position, or I need them for this. And then there's hope there, right? When we
Mhm.
when we elevate others, encourage, enable them, and provide hope for their future, that's what this is all about. That's what putting, good back into the world, or that's why, excuse me, putting back into the good back into the world is so important.
Yeah.
Neela, I am grateful. So you talk about being grateful and all of the, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that I met you. I'm grateful that you came on the show. People trying to connect with you and trying to find you, what social media are you on, and how can they get a hold of you?
For now, just LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep it simple and focused. So for now, just LinkedIn. Just hit me up on LinkedIn.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. Audience, thank you for joining us tonight. And please make sure that you watch this video and look at some of the other content that's here, because there's several other warriors out there. Neela, once again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It was
Th-
an absolute blast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.